Hello everybody, welcome back to, I suppose, another one of these. A lot of space travel going on recently. We had the Dragon capsule launch with the billionaire tourists popping up to have a jolly and a wave at the planet, but also the saga of the Boeing capsule returning without the astronauts. And a couple of things that happened earlier on this year actually also piqued my interest. It got me kind of thinking, if space is fake, how can things go wrong? Hello again. Yes, so it's a great mantra of the flat earthers, of the space deniers, the moonland deniers, and all those people that space is fake. It's all done on green screen. It's all CGI. It's all done in a swimming pool where you can't see the bubbles afterwards, and even everything's blue. Everything's black up in space. It does make sense because it doesn't make sense. But in light of the recent instance with both Boeing and the Dragon capsule tourism jolly, my mind was actually cast back to a couple of landers that got down on the moon at the start of the year. The first one was a Japanese Slim lander, which is a space lander for investigating moon. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but it's descriptive. Yeah, it came down to land unmanned, obviously. Came down. Its actual experiment was to. I've got it written down here. I've got all my notes here, so bear with me 1 second. Yes, the Japanese lander. The mission of the lander was to demonstrate precision lunar landing, and it didn't. It's kind of, what's the expression? You only had one job, CJ from GTA San Andreas. So that didn't happen. That didn't work. It did, however, manage to land, deploy two rovers. Sorry, one of them apparently which hopped, which is all very interesting. And another one as well, which shoots loads of pictures, so you can actually see the images of the lander on the moon. But there was an issue with the solar panels; they were facing the wrong way. So what the decision was made very quickly once it was ascertained what was going on. Shut the whole thing down. Don't let the batteries completely. What's the word? Not deploy. Discharge, thank you, and then wait until the moon had rotated so the sun was hitting the solar panels again, fire them back up, and it was a success to the point where they could continue doing most of the missions they had planned to do, and the lander was eventually shut down, I think, on August 23rd, 24th this year, and it was deemed a success. The next bunch of guys who tried to land a lander on the moon were Intuitive Machines with their Odysseus lander. Now, in my geeky nature, I do like to watch these things, and I saw the landing live. Well, I say I saw the landing live. What I actually saw was a bunch of guys in a circular room around a big large table facing outwards looking at monitors, while a bloke in the middle tried to ascertain what the hell was going on. Now, they had telemetry all the way down, got to a certain point, and then everybody went very, very quiet. I think it was about 45 minutes before they finally said, yeah, we've got some data back from the lander, it is down on the moon. Everybody, yay, woo!
All stations, this is Mission Director on IM-1. We're evaluating how we can refine that signal and dial in the pointing for our dishes. What we can confirm, without a doubt, is our equipment is on the surface of the moon, and we are transmitting. So, congratulations, IM team. We'll see how much more we can get from that.
We are transmitting, and welcome to the moon.
Houston, Odysseus has found his new home.
An excellent call, and this is our team of Intuitive Machines mechanics and their families, their friends, everyone who has sacrificed so much to make it this far.
Stations.
No woo, cancel the woos. Unfortunately, it also landed at a 30-degree pitch. The same situation with the solar panels facing the wrong direction, and there's also an element that they didn't really equate for. They time these things down to the minute, and the issue with the moon is it's very, very cold in the lunar night. Minus 180 Again, something else I've got written down. I think it's like minus 180 degrees Fahrenheit. It's very, very cold. So the electronics inside the landers aren't actually built for extreme colds. They're protected in some ways, but it's very likely they fail. Now, in the case of the Slim lander, they didn't. They were able to restart the lander after the solar panels were fully charged, and they could continue on the mission. So the Intuitive Machines lander, Odysseus, did not have such luck, unfortunately. The electronics failed, and a leg broke. They were able to get some images back from the lander on the moon, which was in a very small part a success in the fact that they got there. But unfortunately, they couldn't do any of the missions, and it was, a lot of people very, very happy, and then they said they had to admit the fact that it hadn't happened in the way they wanted to, so they shut the whole thing down. Lasted about 3 days, bless them. And then we get to Boeing. Boeing obviously have had a pretty crap year. Firstly, there was the door plug. They call it a door plug. It's just a little door on the side of I think it was a Boeing 737. Alaska Airlines was in flight and the door blew out. Terrifying for the passengers, I'm absolutely sure. Luckily, I don't think there was any loss of life, although, change your trousers when you get back to land. But the problem with that is, when you're a company like Boeing, who have having a bad time of it recently, this was only going to make things worse. The share value of there's Boeing, and there was a company that supplied the parts. Boeing, their shares dropped 8%, the other company dropped 11%. The company value and reputation, people, they want to have trust. You definitely want to have faith in the company that builds a metal tube with wings that flies you 35,000 feet up for several hours over vast quantities of water, which curve, and you want to get there safely. You don't want things falling off or popping out. So, retroactively, they had a bit of a backup plan to save their skin, save their name, basically, for lack of a better expression. The Boeing starliner, which has been in development since 2016, Boeing, I'm assuming the way it works is Boeing says, we have an idea for a starliner, here's the plans, here's the specs, please NASA, give us some money, we can do it. So NASA did, on the proviso that they were going to build one. It was absolutely, I'm not going to go through the details, it was a litany of disasters. 2 test flights which weren't successful, without a crew. Third flight with the crew was the one that went to the International Space Station. The astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams were on board, and they went up to the International Space Station, and they got close, and then all sorts of things started to go wrong as they were getting closer. I think 5 thrusters failed, the ones that were, supposed to push the capsule towards the International Space Station because they could do the mummy and daddy love each other very much bit. Luckily, they managed to save it to the point that they could dock with the International Space Station and take stock. So while they were docked on the International Space Station, they were only supposed to be there for 8 days, so just over a week. But obviously, they had to look into what was going wrong. So after about 2 weeks, they figured out there's nothing we can do to fix this. Lots of decisions were made behind the scenes, and basically what was supposed to be an 8-day mission is now going to be an 8-month mission, and Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore are coming back in February on a Dragon capsule that has been chartered with 2 empty seats in February, so they can be brought back. Of course, this is all absolutely devastating for people who want to, the men in suits who want Boeing still to look good. So after the incident with the plane, obviously, as I said about the stock value and wanted to save face, a chap called John Grant, who's a chief analyst at the aviation analytics firm OAG, told the BBC World's Business Report programme, it's more about the whole perception of Boeing as an operator and its long-term safety record. You have a lot of individual incidents that are adding up to a very long catalogue of problems for Boeing and indeed for the airline customers who need to use these aircraft. So as I said, you want to be able to trust the company that makes these things, and if doors are falling out and, a vastly more complicated venture is failing, stranding 2 human beings in space, it really doesn't look good. By all accounts, when the decision was made to undock the Calypso capsule from the ISS and return it without the humans, Boeing really weren't happy. They were in the room, they're absolutely adamant that the capsule would have been fine, But as I read from about 2 or 3 days ago, but Butch and Sonny both said it was basically their decision not to go back because Boeing were not being very forthcoming with a lot of information they needed to know to satisfy their fears about the adequacy of the capsule to bring them safely back to Earth.
I could say a few things and it would be taken the wrong way, a way that I didn't mean it to be. So for questions like that, all that will play out in the coming months. We've got lessons learned that we will go through. We will have discussions. We will be involved with those discussions, and things that need to change will change. Obviously, when you have an issues like we've had, there's some changes that need to be made. Boeing's on board with that. We're all on board with that. And I can tell you, when you push the edge of the envelope again and you do things with spacecraft that have never been done before, just like Starliner, you're going to find some things. And in this case, we found some things that we just could not get comfortable with putting us back in the Starliner when we had other options. There's many cases in the past where there have not been other options. We were very fortunate that we have the space station and that we had the option to stay and we had the option to come back a different way if that's what the data showed.
It has now been, it's returned back to Earth. The images, again, is one of these things I just watch out of habit. The images of the Starliner undocking, crystal clear. That, my friends, was reality. That wasn't CGI. You look at something like I've used before, Gravity. As photorealistic and amazing as that was, it was just that veneer of the uncanny valley. Didn't quite look right, but obviously the capsule undocking, and as it got further and further away, it was out of focus and things like that. These little things tell a rational person that what you're looking at is real and isn't fake and what have you. Anyway, so Starliner comes back to Earth. Doesn't crash back to Earth. It landed quite okay. That part of it was fine. But they were inspecting the capsule and apparently there were problems. It was perceptive problems all the way down. So it would not have been safe. But in the end of the day, it's NASA's money. They paid for it and it's their call. It's their reputation on the line as well. Obviously we've got the tragedies of the Challenger, the Columbia, the original Apollo 1, the horrible fire on the launch pad. Yeah, they don't like losing people, and obviously if you have an opportunity to not to let that be any kind of possibility of happening, that wasn't very good grammar, I do apologise, then you have to take it. With those 3 things in mind, you've got the Slim Lander, you've got the Odysseus from Intuitive Machines, and you've got the Boeing Starliner. These 3 things, if space was fake, there would be no reason for them to happen. If you were a company who wants to make a lot of money, if you want somebody to take interest and investment in your company, you want to look good. You want to do things right first time to show how amazing you are. And if you're pumping loads of money into NASA to fake a rocket launch, it's still going to cost a lot of money, and you're going to return on that investment. So if space is fake, why don't you just go ahead and say, oh yeah, it's a perfect success. Look, here's live footage for the capsule, here's the rover, here's all the experiment. If it was fake, you could do that. But it's not fake. And these landers fell over. One of them died almost instantaneously. Happily, the Japanese lander worked perfectly okay, albeit at a 30-degree angle. And the less said about the Boeing Starliner, the better. Situations like this are unwanted, but they're manageable, for lack of a better expression. Extra supplies have been sent up on a Dragon capsule. Got each, as has been said before, everything's done down to the line. They don't send any more than they need to, but when you've got this unknown variable, 2 people having to survive on the ISS for another 8 months rather than just 8 days, they're going to need something to eat. So that's all taken care of. They're happy. There's some personal stuff, so they're going to miss some things. Butch is going to miss his son's graduation or something along those lines. It's all very sad on that, but they're alive and they're healthy and they've got work to do, so they're fine. But again, for the companies involved, so you've got, I think the Japanese Space Agency, Intuitive Machines and Boeing. If space was fake, they're looking crap for no reason. There's no upside to faking failure. Ooh, that's quite good actually. Happy with that. There's actually nothing to be gained from wiping millions, if not billions, off your share value of two prominent machines manufacturing airline parts and this, that, and the other. And that's basically it. What is the value? There's no answer to that question. What scenario? You know, it's not an insurance job, that's for sure. I mean, Boeing's still making planes. The planes are still flying. I think a few 737s were grounded, but now, as far as I can see, looking at flight radar, they're up again. So what's the point? If it's all done in a tank, if it's all green screen, if it's all done with wires, if everybody's a paid shill, why fake incidents that could possibly completely destroy your company? And two, make sure absolutely nobody looks at you as a prospective engineer or company capable of space travel. There really is no point to faking failure. Another little aspect, so that's that part. Another little aspect, we've had the other recent Dragon capsule go up with the space tourists of the EVAs. Made a lot of the news recently, where some people, what was his name, Jacob Aronson? Right, so you've got Jared Isaacman, who was a billionaire, I can't remember the name of the company he runs, his friend, Air Force pilot Scott Petit, and SpaceX engineers Anna Mannon and Sarah Gillis went up to, I think, 14,000 kilometres, 1,400 kilometres, which is the furthest anybody has ever been since the Apollo missions away from the Earth. And it's also way past the Van Allen belts, if anybody's taking notes. But they dropped down to about 400 kilometres to do their spacewalks, where they literally just opened the lid, there was a ladder, they stood out and gazed upon the Earth with just their visor in the way. Must have been an absolutely amazing experience. Obviously, there was the usual suspect, singular, was picking bones in the camera angle. It was slightly squished, so the Earth looked more oblate than before, but it's just a camera angle, for God's sake. But this also ties in with the interest in investment I was talking about earlier. Why does a billionaire need interest in investment? If you've got that money to faff up against the wall, just to go on a jolly up into space, to test out an EVA suit, which apparently was the reason they went, which is what they were doing with these strange arm movements, he doesn't want anything. All he wants out is the experience. The engineers, obviously, if you worked at SpaceX or NASA or whoever, I mean, SpaceX is part of Rex and Elon Musk and absolute bloody scumbag, but hey ho. If you work on the spacecraft, bloody yeah, right, you want to go up there and have a look around. Apparently they were in their craft for 2 days learning how to breathe, because they had to do the mix of oxygen and nitrogen, very much like a deep sea dive, because otherwise they would get the bends, quite literally. So they did that for 2 days, opened the hatch, normalised the pressure inside the cabin, and just stepped outside. It would have been nice to be floating around and what have you, but obviously they were all linked in and what have you, all safety, got your little harnesses and things. So yeah, it would have been absolutely amazing. I'm a bit weird. That wouldn't have been enough for me. I'm very strange in that if I want to see or experience things, I have to have tactile touch. I know it's a very bizarre concept, but I'm a very strange person. I went to the Bond in Motion exhibition when it was in Covent Garden a few years ago. All the cars were there. You had the DB11, you had the Lotus submarine, the car that did the flip in Man with the Golden Gun, and I'm like this. Even there's signs and exhibits saying "Do not touch," and I'm like, got to. Here's the motorbike from what's the one with Pierce Brosnan? The World Is Not Enough. The World Is Not Enough. No, Tomorrow Never Dies. The one with Jonathan Pryce. Set in Japan or China, wherever it was. The bit with the helicopter where it goes like. Anyway, ignore me. So for me personally, just looking at it, there's a thing in my brain saying, yeah, it might not actually be there, but. So we've got 2 crashed landers, one Boeing starliner that could very well have killed 2 people, and a billionaire who doesn't need anybody to believe him. He doesn't need anybody to say, we're going to be investing in you, this, that, and the other. SpaceX has spent more than enough money on sending rockets up time after time after time. They don't need to do anything to satisfy the curiosity of people who would never believe it anyway. As I said before, when rockets go up into space, they don't send another rocket up just to record it. When the lunar landers came down, I think it was the India lander, was it last year or the year before, a certain person was making much merriment and mockery of the Indian Lander telemetry 3D-based 3D simulation of the Indian Lander coming down to the surface of the moon. He was proclaiming, "Are we supposed to believe this is real?" The CG imagery being sent back that was being displayed on screen by the Indian Space Agency was not a picture or was not a real-time video of the actual India lander landing on the moon. You would have to be a brainless cretin to think it was.
Now that just shows you how bad it's got. Space history has just been made there in front of our very eyes. And yet all we've seen is probably up there in the top 5 worst bits of special effects I think I've ever seen cited from a space agency. You see the obvious problem here?
I rest my case. However, I will say there was an absolute amazing shot when the Dragon capsule taking the billionaire tourists and the engineers up to orbit, when it was the final separation.
I believe this view here is, it's of the trunk. We can see it separating from the second stage. A gorgeous view. We can see that Polaris Dawn.
Separation confirmed.
Copy that, space rescue servicing.
There's your shot. There's your camera from one space vehicle to another, looking out into space, seeing the Earth underneath it. There's your money shot. So, in conclusion, if space is fake, why fail? At all. What would be the point? What would be the financial benefit of having millions or billions wiped off your share value, of your company not being asked to do it again, or not given any funding to do it again because you didn't do it right the first time? That's a lot of begging. That's a lot of, knee leather. That's not the expression at all. Never mind. Yeah, so there we go. That was just something that popped into my head the other day. Am I jealous of guys going to space? No, because I've seen Gravity and that scares the crap out of me. That concept of falling out into space with a limited air supply and nothing to hold on to, that is my probably one and only phobia. And a phobia is an irrational fear, and that's probably about as irrational as you can get. Anyway, that's going to be me for today. So, like I said, if space is fake, why fake failure? I think I'm going to put that on a t-shirt. Okay, thanks very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to see some more. I might poke some more into the final experiment, because December's getting pretty close on the horizon, and there has been some movement. A lot of people are very interested in sending certain flat earthers down to the South Pole, or down to Antarctica, and indeed the South Pole. Certain prolific ones. Not the ones I'm thinking of, which is a shame. We'd have to get out of his crane first. Not to put too fine a point on it, it is expensive to go to Antarctica. It's about £35,000 or $35,000, depending on the way you're getting there. But there are people who have more money than me, who are very willing to personally sponsor certain prolific flat earthers. One of whom, or at least I've definitely mentioned on one of my first videos, Mark Sargent, to pay for him to go. Now, as I said with like David Weiss and people like that, they won't go because it's their shield, it's their grift, it's their main source of income. If they go onto a venture where the only way they make money is disproven, again, we're going back to half of the point I said before. Why undertake a venture that will end up losing you money? And for a lot of these flat earthers, obviously, it doesn't matter if they go, even if when they're on the ground and say, yes, I can see the 24-hour sun, yes, once they get back to good old Blighty or good old wherever, they will say it was all fake and they were all kidnapped and gassed and stuff like that. Sir Sicker did a video, and I think he echoes pretty much what I said a while ago. It's a noble venture, the final experiment, but it's going to be falling on a lot of deaf ears, which is a shame because, Will's done with the best of intentions, but in a very naive way, which is a shame. Anyway, that'll do for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe. Do the usual. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.